What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to YGOPD, your Yu-Gi-Oh! Professional Development, and it's been quite a while since I've done one of the How to Beat series. I've had a few other things planned, but with the recent results from the YCS tournaments the past couple of weeks, as well as the ban list just dropping the other day, I feel like now is the perfect time. This is going to be How to Beat Unchained in under 5 minutes. Of course, before I start, I want to give a quick shout out to all of my new public subs of the channel. Laugh, Time Space, Nikoni, Squiddies, big shout out to Squiddies, big fan, sub to them if you haven't. They're a really cool channel. Winston, Emmanuel, Geargia, Chris, and Rasha, thank you all for joining. If you would like to be a shout out in the next video and you've not subscribed yet, just make sure your subscriptions are public when you subscribe so I can see who you are. Now, with all that said, if there are texts I missed or you like that I haven't covered, make sure you comment them below. Now let's throw 5 minutes on the clock and talk about how to beat Unchained in under 5 minutes. Starting off for going first, as usual, I'm going to talk about the hand traps and floodgates. Your plan, of course, is to either stop them from link climbing or building their board, or to just prevent as much follow-up as possible so that way they can't recover after you break their board. The hand traps I've become more and more a fan of have been DD Crow, Nibiru, Imperm, and Phantasme. Imperm stopping Yama or Sarama is pretty important, but even just holding it for either Caesar or Soul of Rage on your turn can be just as valuable. The Nibiru is a very solid choice if they're not playing necessary engine requirements like the dog. That way they can break their board completely, or you might just have to deal with the Griffin Lock depending on the extenders they have. Either way, it does lower the ceiling quite a bit and is one of the few decks that does not put up a negate within 5 summons, so you can just Nibiru them. DD Crow, I think, is going to continue to gain a lot of traction with reducing follow-up for that deck by hitting the Yama engrave or the typical one of Shayama, or even what they might target later on with Sarama. Last, Phantasme was slowly creeping up at the tail end of this format, but now with decks like Dragon Link, Salamangrate, Rescue Ace, Unchained, and more rogue decks popping up into the fray with Arise Heart being banned, it might be the move to either main or even side that card that gives you a body to protect from targeting, as well as fixing your hand to dig for cards that you might need to then break those boards. After that, I want to talk a little bit about the floodgates. The obvious go-tos, if you can play them, are going to be There Can Be Only One, Summon Limit, and of course Abyss Dweller is a decent go-to for going first. Essentially anything that you can stick that slows them down significantly, and these cards really help with that. Even cards like Gravekeeper's Inscription and Silent Graveyard have been popping up as considerations with the ban list, as well as unlocking a whole slew of graveyard decks like Tier and maybe even Tri-Brigade coming back into the format. It might be worth considering these as well. The last caveat I'll mention will just be forcing them to burn all their resources into something less valuable, such as making an Underworld Goddess, for example, to out a towers you might have. Noir is a good example of that, or even in my deck, Rescue Ace, ending on a card like Avermax or even the BLS Link are nothing to shy away from either. For going second, the name of the game is picking apart their board with non-destructive removal. You're typically doing that in 2 ways, which is either straight up removing the body or taking the body and using it for yourself, so that way you're getting rid of it through a game mechanic and not triggering the floating effects through destruction. Druis Worm, Herald of the Abyss, or Kaijus, or even Ultimate Slayer from the ban list are now all solid go-tos. Kurikara is unfortunately not that great since they typically link into something else, so that card that you were going to Kurikara is not there, so your only target is typically going to be Caesar. Of course, Thrust, Talents, Change of Heart, Mind Control, and my personal favorite right now, Enemy Controller, are all really solid choices to just take those monsters to use for yourself, or at the very least, if your goal is just to bait out a card like Escape from Unchained to pop so they remove the resource so you don't have it. If your goal is just baiting the interaction, maybe those cards are for you. The last couple honorable mentions I'll say is Forbidden Droplet and Marionette Might. I am super excited that Droplet is moving towards playable again. Unfortunately, Konami did not address the turn skips outright, but for now, at least open the door for one of the best cards in the game ever printed to make a return in Forbidden Droplet. Marionette Might has also been the hype point of the recent YCS as a way to steal a fiend without committing anything on the board so they can't chain escape to pop or anything like that. It may just be worth picking these up. Unfortunately, they have been climbing up to about $2 a copy now as opposed to the 25 cents that they were. And even now with Labyrinth coming away from the ban list unscathed and people messing with the Resonator Synchro variant with Labyrinth, there are a couple fiend decks at the forefront of the meta. And that's it, how to beat Unchained in just about 5 minutes. I hope you all enjoyed and learned something new. Of course, comment your favorite ways that you're using to counter the deck below. And with all that said, I will see you all in the next one. Later.